Welcome to today's lesson. I'm Miss Williams. Today we will investigate how can we reduce the damage an invasive species causes to an ecosystem. Are you ready? Grab your pencil and your science journal, and let's get started. In our last lesson, we learned about a little insect that caused big problems. The emerald ash borer killed more than 99% of the ash trees growing in the forests of southeast Michigan. Just look at these piles of trees. In the area where this photograph was taken, more than 2,000 trees had to be removed because of damage caused by the emerald ash borer. I wonder, how can we reduce the damage an invasive species causes to an ecosystem? I think we should try to develop a solution for this problem. Does this diagram look familiar? It's the engineering design process. This process will help us figure out a solution. In the first stage of the process, the ask stage, engineers define the problem. Did we already define the problem we need to solve? I think so. What problem does the emerald ash borer cause? Well, emerald ash borer larvae eat the inner bark of the ash tree, creating passages that cut off the tree's circulation, which eventually kills the tree. Do you remember the way the emerald ash borer affects other organisms? There are at least 44 species of spiders and insects that feed exclusively on ash trees. If all the ash trees die, these spiders and insects will have no food. Wow, this little beetle causes big problems for the ash trees in North America. So let's define the problem like this. The emerald ash borer is causing ash trees in North America to die. This removes food and shelter for many other species and damages the balance of the ecosystems here. That looks good to me. What do you think? Do you remember what we should do next? Let's review the stages of the engineering design process so we can continue to work toward a solution. After engineers define the problem, they identify criteria or what is needed to solve the problem. They also identify constraints, which are the limitations they need to consider when solving the problem. They use those criteria and constraints to figure out what is possible. Do you remember what stage is next? If you said the imagine stage, you're right. In the imagine stage, engineers conduct research to learn more about the problem, brainstorm possible solutions, and select a solution to explore. After the imagine stage is the plan stage. Engineers begin to generate a detailed design plan and gather the materials they need. What comes after the plan stage? The create stage. During this stage, engineers build a prototype and then test and evaluate it. After the create stage is the improve stage. Engineers reevaluate the design and materials and determine how to redesign to improve the prototype. Do you remember the last stage of the process? The share stage, right? During the share stage, engineers document their ideas and present them to others to receive feedback and support. Today, we will focus on the ask, imagine, and plan stages. We've already defined the problem, so the next step is to identify criteria and constraints. But do you think we're ready for this? I think we need to research the emerald ash borer to gather more information before we can identify criteria and constraints. Did you notice this two-sided arrow on the engineering design process diagram? Engineers often move back and forth between stages of the process. So let's do some research. How could we research information about the emerald ash borer? You probably have some ideas. Maybe we could do an investigation with emerald ash borers in Ashwood, or we could read information in books or on the internet to learn more about this invasive insect. I'll search for some information and then we can review it together. Before I start to search, let's decide what information could help us design a solution to the problem. If all the beetles died, they couldn't harm the trees anymore. So maybe we should research what can kill the emerald ash borer. It says here that if you spray insecticide on the soil around the ash tree, The tree will take up the insecticide through its roots. When the emerald ash borer eats the plant tissue that contains the insecticide, the emerald ash borer will die. But the insecticide can also kill other organisms, such as earthworms and honeybees. Let's look for a less deadly solution. I wonder, is there a way to remove the emerald ash borer from the trees? Let's find out. Okay, I found a possible solution. Woodpeckers like to eat emerald ash borer larvae. This removes the emerald ash borer from the trees without harming other organisms. But woodpeckers may damage the trees as they dig out the larvae. Let's conduct another search. So far, we know we can kill the emerald ash borer by putting insecticide in the soil near ash trees. We also saw that woodpeckers may be useful because they eat emerald ash borer larvae. Hey, I know. Is it possible to stop the emerald ash borer from getting to more trees? The emerald ash borer can hide in piles of wood, such as this firewood. So, to stop the spread of the emerald ash borer, people shouldn't move wood from one area to another. That way, they won't accidentally introduce the emerald ash borer to new places. Because we're moving back and forth between stages, let's check off what we've done so far. We have defined the problem and conducted research. Now that we know more about the emerald ash borer, let's go back and identify criteria and constraints. As we identify criteria and constraints, let's focus on forests in the United States. Imagine that a United States federal agency will implement our solution in collaboration with state or local governments. The agency will give us access to volunteers and some money for whatever solution we design. Let's think about the outcome. Imagine the best and worst case scenarios involving the emerald ash borer in the United States. What do you think is the best case scenario? I think in the best case scenario, the emerald ash borer would be completely removed from U.S. ecosystems. How do you think this would affect the ash trees? Do you think the ash tree population would grow back? I think so. And let's not forget the species that were affected by the loss of ash trees. If the ash trees grew back, species that need them for food and shelter would be able to meet their needs. Wow, that would be great. Now, let's look at the worst case scenario. What's the worst case scenario? All the ash trees in the United States would die. Then, emerald ash borers might die. Other species that can only eat ash trees or use them for shelter would become extinct. Even organisms that depend partially or indirectly on the ash tree would be affected. Many animals wouldn't have enough food, and animal populations would get smaller. Our best and worst case scenarios are extreme examples, but we can use them to help us identify our criteria and constraints. We'll start with criteria. What does our solution need to do? I think we need a solution that eliminates or reduces emerald ash borers in the United States. Can you think of anything else? Do you agree that we need a solution that stops emerald ash borers from spreading to new locations? I hope so. And in the worst case scenario, the emerald ash borer completely destroyed the balance of the ecosystem. I think we need a solution that restores the balance of ecosystems. Now let's think about our constraints. What are our limitations? We talked about spraying insecticides around ash trees, but insecticides could kill other organisms besides the emerald ash borer. We want to avoid that, so our solution must not harm other organisms. And we need a solution that uses materials the agency has access to. The solution must also be something the agency can afford. And our solution can't take too long to start working because ash trees are dying already. So our solution should have results in noticeable effects within 1 year. We identified our criteria and constraints, so we're finished with the ask stage. Let's move on to the imagine stage. We already conducted research. I think it's time to brainstorm and select a solution. As we work to design an effective solution, we might wonder what solutions people have tried. Well, people cut down trees containing emerald ash borers and destroy the wood. This solution kills the insects inside the tree. But could we improve it? What if more people helped identify trees infested with emerald ash borers? Then we could identify infestations earlier, and maybe we wouldn't have to destroy so many trees. And here's another solution. Can you tell what it is? Maybe this sign will help. Oh, this is an emerald ash borer trap. Those are insects stuck to the outside of the trap. Yuck. A trap would certainly help stop the spread of the emerald ash borer. But what else could a trap do? Did you say the trap could harm other organisms that get stuck to it? I think so. And that would not fit our criteria. Can you design a better solution? I hope you said yes, because now it's time for you to use everything you've learned about the emerald ash borer to solve this growing problem. Keep the criteria and constraints in mind as you complete your task after this lesson. Who knows, maybe the next time someone searches for solutions to the emerald ash borer problem, they'll find an article about a student just like you.